Hello there, Steve Kaufman here. Здравствуйте, 你好吗? 怎么样? Comment ça va chez vous là? Hur står det till? Yeah. I'm not going to say hello and how are you in all these different languages, but I intend to have a little rant this evening, which I enjoy doing. Just had dinner and my wife is playing the piano, so you may hear her piano in the background, which is nice. I'm going to rant within the time limit of YouTube, which is 10 minutes. We in Canada, we have an official government agency called the Office of the Language Commissioner. Commissar, let's call him the Commissar. The Commissar of Languages. The Commissar of Languages is on record in the newspapers as saying that, let me see if I can find it here, something drastic has to be done. What does he say here? Drastic action needed to solve language issues before Olympics. Like drastic, like wow. And what he says is the Harper government, that's our Prime Minister Harper, must show leadership and intervene with drastic action to ensure that Francophone athletes and visitors at the 2010 Vancouver Games will get service in their language. Federal Official Languages Commissioner Graham Fraser said Tuesday. What a complete idiot. Vancouver and Whistler are English-speaking areas. If the Olympic Games were held in Quebec City, which is predominantly French-speaking, then most of the services and most of the proceedings, the restaurants and everything else would be in French. Of course, you have to provide services in the languages of the visitors. And in the case of Canada, you have to provide an even higher level of service for the other official language. But if Quebec wants to feature French because that's their culture, fine. If I'm in the Italian part of Switzerland, I expect Italian to be featured. We don't need a commissar dictating what language is to be used where. This is a typical example of somebody who has a budget trying to make himself important. There are so many languages in the world. Yeah, Canada is English and French. Fine. If I'm in French Canada, I speak French. If I'm in English Canada, I speak English. At the airport, there are signs in both languages. Now, Mr. Fraser, our Commissar of Languages, decided that Vancouver has a very low score in terms of providing French language services. But we also have signage in Chinese, in Korean, in Japanese, in Spanish, because these are the people who come through our airport. So that's a normal thing to do. These are the people who need to be provided with instructions and information in their language. There are so many languages in this world. The fact that English and French, certainly English, is dominant in the world is an absolute accident of history. The fact that Portuguese is spoken by 200 million people is an accident of history. Try and find Britain on a map of the world. It's a little foggy island. Portugal is even smaller. It's just so happened that at a particular point in history, people from Portugal were able to impose their language on an enormous area called Brazil, and people from Britain or from England were able to impose their language on other places, but at different times in history. For example, the Silk Road. The common language on the Silk Road was a form of Persian called Sogdian. That could have been a world language, but with the changes that took place, the Mongol invasions and so forth, Sogdian never achieved that. But perhaps Persian or Sogdian or various forms of Persian should be a world language. The Mongols, they dominated everything from Russia to now that's my granddaughter, and I'm going to take that and ask her if she'll allow me to call her back. No, it's not my granddaughter, so my wife will take that call. The point is this, let's not get carried away with the sanctity of different languages. Languages are for communication. People who come to the Olympic Games at Whistler will manage. Some of them will speak different languages. There will be guides, interpreters. If every single sign in every single store is not in English and French equally displayed, it's really not an issue for anybody who's halfway sensible. It only matters to rabid language nationalists in Quebec and for government bureaucracies like the one run by Mr. Fraser. A completely useless idea. Fraser is the same guy who said that anyone graduating from a university in Canada should be bilingual. Well, I'm sorry, the nearest French-speaking community of any significance to Vancouver is 5,000 miles, say 8,000 kilometers away. There's no way that that's going to happen. Why should you say that people who are outstanding scientists or outstanding in whatever field, in order for them to graduate from university, they have to speak French because just under a quarter of the population in Canada is French speaking, and there are certain people, bureaucrats and others, who have made a career out of being bilingual, as if that makes them closer to sainthood. Mr. Fraser, how many languages do you speak? So you speak French, and you go around, prance around the country, speaking French, and you think you're some kind of phenomenal person. No, French is a nice language. I love French. I love French, and I'm a Canadian nationalist. I believe in Canada, and I think that having two languages in Canada is a great thing. But I have to be fair. Most people don't have an opportunity to use French, and they don't speak it. So stop trying to force this kind of stuff on everybody. And I don't demand it of people in Quebec who are happily French speaking and may or may not speak English. Anyway, that is Mr. Fraser. What I'm saying is, let's be reasonable. We have these language nationalists. I read a tremendous book, a novel, written by I think it's Carlos Ruiz Zafón, who happens to be Catalan. And he wrote a book in Spanish, Castilian Spanish, which I read in Spanish, and it's called La Sombra del Viento. I loved it. Now, there are some sophisticated people who say it's not so, whatever. To me, it was a phenomenal book. I loved the way he used the language, Spanish. I loved the plot, the mystery inside a mystery inside a mystery. I couldn't put it down from beginning to end. I loved every moment of it. La Sombra del Viento, the shadow of the wind, get it. But apparently, in Catalonia, in Barcelona, the Catalan nationalists are all upset at Ruiz Zafón, who is a Catalan, and they say he should have written his book in Catalan. What for? Who's going to read it in Catalan? Get serious. He writes because he wants people to read his book, to recognize his book. There's 300 million people who can read it in Spanish. There's 6 million people who can read it in Catalan. And people are going to notice it in Spanish, and they're going to translate it into other languages. Why would he possibly write it in Catalan? So I think language should be about fun and enjoyment. And you know, any of the dominant world languages today, they're there by luck. I mean, Russian. I love Russian. I love what I'm doing in Russian. Russia. And of course, I always get a kick out of the Russians because they get all hung up about trying to say, you know, Stalin was a great guy. We were so powerful, blah, blah, blah. That was a black chapter in Russia's history. The way in which the Muscovy expanded within literally 100 years to the Pacific Ocean is a tremendous achievement. The energy of the Russian people to do that, those that were involved. But Russia was lucky. It could have been another language. It could have been Lithuanian. Maybe Cree, you know, under different circumstances. Maybe some of the native American languages might have achieved some kind of domination. Maybe it would have been, I don't know, Swahili. I mean, it's all luck and chance. All languages are equally valuable, and language learning and language speaking should not be a political act. It should be something that we do because we enjoy them and because we appreciate them as examples of human creativity. And there you have my 10-minute rant. And now I got to go do the dishes. Bye.